everyone, I'm Brendan Hodak, and welcome to another episode of Voice Breakdown, the show where we teach you how to imitate some of the most iconic voices. Today, we're breaking down the voice of Bernard Matthew Rubble, although you might just know him as Barney Rubble from the Flintstones. The Flintstones is an important piece of television and animation history. It was the very first animated show to have a primetime slot. First airing in 1960, we're still talking about this show today. It's had countless spin-off shows, TV specials, theatrical films, live-action films, video games, and comic books since then. Barney is, of course, one of our main characters, the best friend of Fred Flintstone. He's been voiced by plenty of voice actors through the years, originally being voiced by the great Mel Blanc. Fans of the Flintstones will have a sense of what Barney sounds like in their minds, but what's interesting is that for earlier episodes of the show, he sounded completely different. He had a much higher pitched voice and had more of a wise guy, smart aleck sound to him. At the end of the first season, Mel Blanc was involved in a car accident, and Daws Butler, who we've talked about in our Yogi Bear video, covered him for a few episodes. When Mel Blanc returned, he made significant changes to Barney's voice. This was when the dopey, always chuckling Barney that we all know and love today began. That's the style of Barney's voice we'll be covering today. Let's break this voice down. Component number one, the vocal cords. Let's start with pitch. While Barney's pitch might seem low, this is actually a trick of resonance. We'll talk more about that in the next component, but his pitch is actually pretty neutral and sometimes even goes fairly high. For example, if I say, whatever you say, Fred. Whatever you say, Fred. That might sound fairly low, but listen back to it as I remove the resonance elements. Just listen to the actual pitch. Whatever you say, Fred. Whatever you say, Fred. You can hear that when those resonance elements are removed, the pitch sounds pretty normal. And while not incredibly high, at the end of that phrase, you can hear me going a bit towards the high side, even breaking into a lighter head voice quality. Whatever you say, Fred. Fred. Whatever you say, Fred. So generally, we'll have solid compression, but can break into a slightly lighter, headier sound when going higher on occasion. He also has plenty of pitch variation, playing into his fun personality. We also have to mention his laugh. While it won't be complete without the other components in place, the pitch of the laugh is most important. For his quick little chuckle, this will be down in a neutral to low range. But for his full-blown laugh, it definitely breaks into a head voice falsetto range. It's usually done with a huh or he sound. Component number two, the larynx. If we just have the vocal cords down, we don't really sound too much like Barney. But the larynx is where this all changes. We have the option to raise the larynx, lower the larynx, or keep it neutral. As we lower the larynx, we get a darker, rounder, and in Barney's case, dopier sound. Imagine you're speaking through a yawn, and as you speak through that yawn, listen to how dopey it sounds. Take what we already have with the vocal cords, whatever you say, Fred, whatever you say, Fred, and add in the lowered larynx, whatever you say, Fred, whatever you say, Fred, and we're already sounding just like Barney. You'll need to fine-tune a bit to find the exact height of the larynx to match Barney's sound, but essentially think more or less of a yawn. Oh, that obedience school stuff sure paid off, Fred. He did what you told him to do. Component number three, the tongue. The back of our tongue can move independently from the front of the tongue. The front of the tongue is important for Barney, but we'll talk about that more when we explore articulation later. The back of the tongue, however, needs to drop just a bit to give us the right resonance for this voice. The good news is that this typically happens automatically when you lower your larynx anyway. As you yawn, like we discussed, your tongue will likely drop. However, if you feel the voice is not quite there, consider lowering or raising the back of the tongue to fine-tune. Oh, no, don't forget that. I guess tennis isn't Fred's racket. Component number four, the soft palate. The soft palate acts as a trap door between the mouth and the nose. If the palate is lowered, more sound goes through the nose. If it is raised, more sound goes through the mouth. For Barney, we'll want more mouth resonance. He can almost sound like he has a slightly stuffy nose at times, a little Rocky Balboa-esque. When you have a stuffy nose, you're not getting much nasal resonance since it's all blocked. To imitate that, we want to raise the soft palate. More good news here, this also happens naturally when you yawn. So by thinking of a yawn, you'll get a 3-for-1 deal. A lowered larynx, a lowered back of tongue, and a raised soft palate.
I envy you, Fred. All you gotta do is get a good night's sleep, and when you wake up, you'll be rich. A rich millionaire!
Component number 5, articulation. Earlier, I mentioned the front of the tongue being important. There are a few sounds we need to focus on for Barney that involve the front of the tongue. First are his TH sounds. There are 2 types of TH sounds. There is a voiced TH, like in the word then. If you place your hand on your throat while making that sound, you'll feel the vocal cords vibrating. There's also a voiceless TH, as in the word thought. Again, if you place your hand on your throat for that sound, you won't feel any vibration. For the voiced TH, Barney tends to replace that with a D. For the voiceless TH, that gets replaced with a T.
Oh boy, Fred, you're even worse than I thought.
Additionally, when he's actually supposed to be saying a true T or D, these tend to be dentalized a bit, meaning the tongue, instead of being behind the teeth, d, tends to go in between the teeth, d. Additionally, sometimes his speech is non-rhotic, meaning that R sounds are occasionally dropped. For example, the word shore might sound more like shaw.
He sure likes you, Fred.
Component number 6, prosody. Prosody refers to the melodic or rhythmic changes in a voice. For Barney, we want those patterns to make him sound dopey, fun-loving, and happy-go-lucky, except when he's arguing with Fred, of course. Oftentimes, that is expressed through the pitch gradually rising upward.
I gotta join my buddy. Who knows? Maybe they'll write a folk song about us.
Also, some words will sound a bit more stretched out to give that
Dopey quality, followed by faster bursts of speech afterward.
This is also a good time to mention that part of Barney's rhythm involves filler words. He says lots of ums, especially in the beginning of a sentence. Even Fred's name has become a filler word for Barney.
Oh, good night, Fred. You want this shade pulled down, Fred? Whatever you say, Fred. Gee, I don't know, Fred.
He often says Fred at the beginning and ends of sentences, so feel free to double up on your ums and your Freds.
Fred, you are a bundle of nerves. If you need me, I'll be there in a jiffy.
Let's recap. Component number 1, the vocal cords. The pitch is neutral but variable, usually neutral to solid compression, but can get headier in the higher parts of his range and when he laughs. Component number 2, the larynx. Drop that larynx
To get that dopey sound.
Component number 3, the tongue. The back of the tongue can drop in combination with the larynx, lowering. Component number 4, the soft palate. Raise the soft palate to minimize the nasal resonance. Component number 5, articulation. Replace voiced th, th, with d, d, voiceless th, with t, t, and dentalize the d and t sounds, having the tongue in between the teeth, making sure the sounds really pop. Component number 6, prosody. Let your rhythmic and melodic choices sound like a happy-go-lucky guy who's just enjoying having fun.
Thank you for watching New York Speech Coaching's Voice Breakdown, episode number 56. Be sure to check out future episodes of Voice Breakdown, the show where we teach you how to break down some of the most iconic voices. See you next time, Fred. He sure likes you, Fred.